So Bernard Sanders was on the television. He was on television at some point in time. I think it was like 2 days ago he was on television. He was on television 2 days ago. Bernard Sanders, the chairman of the Bud Get Committee. So this is Bernard Sanders on television. This is a 7-minute clip. I'll just play it, until I get bored. But this is him talking about the COVID American Relief Rescue Package, whatever. So here's Bernard Sanders.
Chairman Senator Bernie Sanders. Chairman Sanders, thanks for being with us. So you hear what Speaker Pelosi says. It looks as though the bill is on track to be signed by President Biden this week. Obviously,
to my understanding, Friday is supposed to be when he signs it, which means we might be able to get the stimulus on Monday. Reminder, I want to remind everyone, I'm a comedian, and as a comedian, I want to say that if you do get your stimulus package, PayPal, Cash App, Patreon, links down below. Just saying, just throwing that out there.
Doesn't include a federal minimum wage hike, something you were very determined, I know, to include. Despite that, are you satisfied with what the bill ended up with?
Anderson, in my view, this is the most significant legislation for working people that has been passed in decades. And what this legislation is about is looking out around our country in the midst of this terrible pandemic, the economic decline, the fact that our education of our kids has been disrupted, that people are facing eviction, families are facing hunger. We've looked at all of these issues and we said, what can we do? And I think what shocks many in the establishment, and certainly my Republican colleagues, is that we wrote a bill to address the crises facing working families and the middle class and low income people, and not the wealthy and large corporations and their lobbyists. So this bill is enormously significant. And at the top of our list is the understanding that the American people know to be true, is that we're not going to get our kids back to school safely. We're not going to get our economy humming the way it should be and create the millions of jobs we need to create unless we crush the pandemic. And we are putting billions of dollars into making sure that we are producing the amount of vaccines that we need, and we're developing a mechanism to get those vaccines into the arms of the American people. The Biden administration, I think, in the last month has made real progress, but we have a long, long way to go. Because every day that somebody is not getting a vaccine is a day that that person may get the COVID virus and die.
In terms of...
So, I just want to say, this is a very, very good package overall. Obviously, the two main things about it that are my huge problems is the $15 minimum wage should have been included in this. Should have, right? And the Biden administration lied their asses off to try to give up, make up, basically just manufacture a fictitious narrative that they couldn't get it in there. And the check should have been $2,000. The difference between $1,400 and $2,000 for the overall, it's a $1.9 trillion bill, motherfucker, right? You could have added on or tacked on, I think, another 30-something billion or something just to give everyone the extra $600 that they promised. Yes, those are big problems. However, this bill also has a child tax credit, which, again, I mentioned earlier, there's going to be a new baby in my family, so that's going to help out my household. And that's a policy that if we rally around and focus on for the next year, we could maybe have just a general UBI for children. That would be pretty good. And then maybe we can build off of that. I don't know. But I do think giving all parents money every month for a year, I think that that's going to have a serious effect on the 2022 midterms. So I just want to throw that out there. Yes, this bill could have been better. Absolutely. However, as it is, it's pretty fucking good.
$15 an hour minimum wage. How do you want to proceed with that? Because clearly that's still something on your agenda.
Oh, it is absolutely on my agenda, Anderson. If you were to ask me what the great crisis in the American economy is today, we can talk about a lot of things. But to my mind, the fact that half of our people are living paycheck to paycheck, and that many millions of people are working for starvation wages for $8, $9, $10 an hour. You can't live on that. Minimum wage has not been raised by Congress since 2007, and it stands today at $7.25 an hour. So we are developing a strategy. And if anybody thinks that the vote that we had the other day on the minimum wage is the last vote that is taking place this session, they're very, very wrong.
Because
pass that bill.
There are some Democrats who did not want that.
I know. Believe me, I know. But at the end of the day, the American people want it. Overwhelmingly, large numbers of people support raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. 8 states have already voted to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Many communities and cities have done the same. So we're going to do what the American people want, and in one way or another, we are going to pass the $15 an hour minimum wage.
I just want to go back to something you said at the beginning, that you think this is the most significant piece of legislation in decades. Can you just talk more about why you think that is, and what does it say that, the first relief at the beginning of this pandemic got overwhelming Republican support as well. This got no Republican support. What does that say to you?
Well, it says to me that the Republicans have turned their back on the needs of working families. They used the reconciliation process a few years ago to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the top 1% and large corporations. They used the reconciliation process to try to repeal the Affordable Care Act and throw 30 million people off of the health care that they had. What we are using reconciliation for is to address the crises facing working families. What does that mean? It means that hopefully within a couple of...
So I just want to say, I don't know if I'm going to play the rest of this, but I like Bernard. The big thing here, again, is we've got to nuke the motherfucking filifucking-buster. That's what we got to do. And now, as far as I understand, Joe Manchin has come around to the idea of supporting a talking filibuster, which is effectively the same thing as nuking the filibuster. The only difference is basically the filibuster, for those of you that don't know, is originally intended to force debate, not to force a 60 vote threshold. That was not the original intention of the filibuster. It was turned into that by racists who wanted to stop civil rights legislation. So what the filibuster was originally supposed to be is, if you want to talk on the floor of the Senate, you're allowed to talk for as long as you physically can. That's the idea. Bernard Sanders himself, I believe, did a 9-hour filibuster. I want to say somewhere around 7 or 8 years ago. So that's basically what the idea of the filibuster is supposed to be. Nowadays, a senator can just send an email to Chuck Schumer and say, "Yo, filibuster me," and then boom, 60 votes all of a sudden. So that's a big thing. And we need to get rid of that. A talking filibuster, which is, again, restoring it to what its original intent was, is effectively the same thing as nuking it, though it does allow the Republicans time to expose themselves for being silly fucking buggers over and over again. So that'll be pretty interesting.
Of weeks, some 85% of American households will receive a direct payment check. That direct payment will be $1,400 for every working class adult, individuals $75,000 or less, couples $150,000 or less, plus your children. Family of 4 gets help of $5,600. And in the midst of this crisis, God only knows that millions and millions of families desperately need that boost. What this legislation does, Anderson, is it addresses a crisis that this country has ignored for too long. We have one of the highest rates of childhood poverty of any major country on earth. This legislation will expand the child tax credit and lower childhood poverty in America by up to 50%. Yeah, we're going to pay attention to the kids.
So, real quick, why not make it 100%? Just saying, throwing that out there. If we can do it by 50, why can't we do it by 100? Right? Am I allowed to say that? Okay.
In America, many of whom are struggling for a variety of reasons. This legislation says that in the richest country in the history of the world, people should not be going hungry. In my community, Burlington, Vermont, a few months ago, hundreds of cars lined up for emergency food packages. It's taken place all over this country. this legislation provides help so that when the moratorium on evictions ends, people will get assistance to stay in their homes, whether it's a rental unit or your own home. This legislation more than doubles funding for community health centers. In my state, about 25% of people get their medical care, they get their dental care, they get low-cost prescription drugs, mental health counseling through community health centers. We've more than double funding it. We're putting money into getting doctors into underserved areas.
I love doctors.
We're putting money into making sure that millions of workers do not lose the pensions that they were promised. So this legislation is quite comprehensive in attempting to address the needs of working families. And obviously, the next reconciliation bill will deal with those structural problems.
Now, I believe that they get two more. I don't know why he keeps saying reconciliation, but I believe we're going to get two more reconciliation packages before the 2022 midterms, if I remember correctly. This was, I believe, the 2020 reconciliation package that they put, and then I think that they get a chance at a 2021 and a 2022, I believe. So, Bernard Sander has hinted that the next one will be based on infrastructure, so,
Not just the emergency problems of how we can create millions of good-paying jobs, rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure, and transforming our energy system to protect us from climate change.
Let's
Senator
go!
Sander, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
So yeah, that's good. Again, this is a very significant stimulus package. It's going to very much so give a lot of people a lot of money. Again, when you get your stimulus, as a comedian, I say this unseriously. I am not serious whatsoever. You can go down to the description, PayPal, Patreon, Cash App. Hit me. I'm just saying. Again, I'm just joking. I didn't say anything, actually. I was just making a joke. I'm doing a stand-up routine, except I'm sitting down. But yeah, so that's a thing. But anyway, this is actually really good. And again, it should have been $2,000. Absolutely. It should have been $15 minimum wage. Absolutely. But this isn't the last attempt that we get. This isn't the last try. And even then, again, this gives us opportunity. Maybe we could push for, $15 minimum wage that doesn't, take 5 years to be implemented, right? Because the idea that it was before was, it's going to be $15 minimum wage by 2026? What? Right? So, maybe we can, do a little better than that, right? I'm just saying. So maybe we've got extra time there. And again, so this is pretty good stuff. And so just wanted to play that of clip of Bernard Sander selling it. And did a pretty good job, I think. Yo, I love money. JL, $5. Or super chats. Give money to the big corporations. I love giving money to big corporations.